Hello everyone, I'm Caroline.
And I'm David.
I don't know why you wave every time you
I don't
introduce
know.
yourself.
It's comforting. It's welcoming.
Okay, because he's not welcoming at all. But welcome to the first podcast that David and I are going to be doing together as a couple. And I think we're going to call it Love and Bodybuilding, something like that. If you guys have any other name ideas, feel free to comment below.
Absolutely.
But this has been a ever-coming podcast idea for David and I, and we just haven't pulled the trigger on it until now. A lot of people have asked us about our relationship, how we both met, like how we make it work with bodybuilding, life goals, etc. And I figured now is the perfect time to talk about it. We've been married almost a year now. Can you believe it?
Dang. Yeah, it's been a weird year.
Regret or what?
No regret. It's just been such a long year that I feel like we've been married way before we were married anyways. So it's just like, oh wow, we've been married a year officially, and so the government says that we can actually be together, which I think is a weird concept, anyways. But
they've been a whole nother pain in my butt to get my name changed.
Yeah, at least we have tax returns coming up, so that's one benefit that we're getting out of the government right now.
Hopefully
you guys are getting tax returns too.
Yeah. But nonetheless, we can tell a little bit of our backstory first, since a lot of people know us personally, but some of you don't, and we want to get to know you guys better so that maybe you can relate to where we've come from, or whether you are in a relationship or not, it's something that can benefit you. So I guess to start, I was living in Ohio. We met in 2016 technically. Mm-hmm. And I was working for a corporate sales company for agricultural sales, traveling all the time. I had just finished bodybuilding that year and was taking an off season. I had just gotten my first breast augmentation, had a lot of different changes going on in my life. I had just moved into a new apartment and was really just focused on my career, personal growth. I've always been that way, but that moment in time, I was extremely okay, next step to be a better Caroline. That's where I was at. And I had started doing a Bible study group, and I was thinking about every aspect of my life. My career was flourishing, financially I was doing well, my family life was good, I was spending time with friends, and kind of that only thing that felt like it was missing was a relationship. And I don't really, I never dated a lot growing up. I did a little bit in college here and there, very casually, but I had 2 long-term relationships during that time. And ever since then, I was dating's kind of way to the side. And then I was well, maybe I am ready to date. And lo and behold, Mr. David came along. And
Mr. David now.
You remember Mr. Yeah. But he was on Instagram, and I at that time my account was just starting to focus on fitness. His account was growing more rapidly than mine, and that's when they had just rolled out the IG stories. Or no, the lives. So IG lives. And for some reason I was who's this guy who followed me from Georgia? I click on his profile, basically everything's shirtless. I mean, it wasn't it was bad to look at. So I was I'm gonna keep scrolling a little bit. And he already knows what my favorite picture was of him. It was a selfie. I could see his face, but it was of his back in the mirror.
Oh yeah.
And that was the one that I was okay. And I was reading his captions, and most of them were pretty philosophical, in depth. And now we've talked about it, he was documenting his prep, what he was going through mentally. And I was okay, I'm gonna follow him back, whatever. Well, he went live, and I'm okay, we'll see who David really is. And I get in the chat, and he's walking in the grocery store. And I remember he wanted something a cheat meal, and anybody have cheat meal ideas? And I am all into baking. I was really getting into baking at that time, and I was well, you need to get a box of Ghirardelli brownie mix, and you make brownie cookies. And he was just okay. Well, I don't even know if you bought the brownie mix, did you?
I ended up buying, so I bought cookie dough because that was like my vice way back in the day when I was like in high school. Um, and then I did buy the Ghirardelli brownie mix, and I ended up not cooking them, even though you sent me the. So she slid in my DMs, by the way, you guys. Let's get that clear. She's like, oh, I forgot to send you the recipe, so she slid in, and that was her foot in the door. That brownie mix, I didn't end up making what you sent me, and then it was so late in like it that I was already back on diet and stuff like that. I was just gonna wait for you to come down and make it, but my sister ended up making brownies out of it, and I was like, oh, well, that's that. Do I buy a box and fake it? And I was like, nah, like it's all good.
Yeah. Well, it's not like you're a big baker, anyways.
No.
You don't like the oven. You only stovetop stuff.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. I'll pretty much only stovetop, yeah.
95%.
If we had a grill, I would grill some stuff, but we don't. So
Yeah.
it's either skillet or it's all stovetop at 100%.
But nonetheless, that's how we first started talking, and he's been living in Georgia at that time. So we started talking December of 2016, and then January 2017 was when we became exclusive. Like, we were only talking to one another, and February you flew up to Ohio to meet me for the first time.
Yeah, so I can give a little bit of backstory from my point of view. So like during that time period, I graduated school, I had a degree in IT, I was at Coca-Cola doing some basically software development, I'll keep it simple. And when I was going through this prep for nationals in 2016, I won the first classic physique show in Georgia in the beginning of 2016, won the overall thing. And I decided I was going to do a national show. So 2016 nationals down in Miami in November was it. Now when I was going through that prep, it was crazy prep for me. Like, don't know how I didn't die doing it. And like I felt like I died. Definitely learned a lot from it. And I documented it. So I was doing like a vlog every day. I ended up getting black mold in my apartment, so I was like throwing up blood and had blood coming out of like every orifice in my body for like 48 hours, 2 weeks out from the show. And so it was just like a wild prep, and I documented it all. And like the selfies, I think I was philosophical on them, and then I would do the actual vlog, which had a knowledge base, and then I would post a meme, and my memes were ridiculous, by the way, you guys. Ridiculous. I'm surprised those didn't scare you away.
They did.
So then during that time period, because it was almost like watching a reality TV show, the way that I was documenting it with the vlogging and everything, my Instagram profile like blew up. Like I gained like 10,000 followers, or like I was at like 3,000 or 4,000 before that prep, and it ended up blowing up to like almost 16,000 followers by the end of the prep. So I just happened to get the IGTV because most people didn't have it at that point. Yeah, the live on IG. So I just happened to be one of the lucky ones because I was growing so quickly, and even big profiles didn't have it yet. Only a very select few people got it to test it out and give it test runs, and I just happened to be one of them, and that's where you came in. And so that cheat meal was because I was coming out of the show, and I literally picked up chicken and rice and stuck it in there, and I was like, wow, this is depressing. I could eat whatever I want now, and I have chicken and rice in my basket. So let's go live.
Yeah. So then it was like super fast the way our relationship progressed, I feel like, because a lot of my friends were hesitant. They're like, are you sure? Like, why this guy? Like, my best friend especially was saying, Caroline, like, I love you, I want you to be happy, but this seems like it's moving really quickly. Are you sure he's like the one? I ended up saying I love you like after 2 weeks of us talking, I think.
Yeah, I didn't meet in person by this point either. It was like all FaceTimes and stuff like that. And immediately she was like click and hung up. And then she's like, yeah, just that's how we are where we're from. Like we say I love you to my friends and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, like whatever. I didn't really think much of it. I was like, all right, cool, whatever. And she like wanted to schedule like and have topics of conversation at some point, and I'm like, look, this isn't a meeting. I was like, oh, what do you mean?
Yeah.
So it was definitely like fun, but like I kind of knew right off the rip, just something was just different when we actually talked. I didn't know she was interested in me for the first month. When she was like flirting with me, but I didn't realize she was flirting with me because
I suck at flirting.
I suck at understanding when someone's flirting. So it's like both ways there. And it was the first time like I was going to fly to meet someone. Actually, it was my first time flying alone. I always flew with someone. Besides Miami, I did fly down by myself. So I guess second time flying alone. And my dad like made me give him the address. First time I've ever met someone that my dad was actually concerned. He's like, okay, are you sure you want to go through this? I'm like, yeah. I was like, I'll give you the address. I know what you're thinking right now. I was like,
he thought I was catfishing you.
Catfish, exactly. Catfishing was big at that time though. Like it was really, really big. Like you didn't know it was when the internet was still morphing into what it is today, the social media and everything like that. It was very easy to have a spoofed profile or something like that.
Even my roommate was concerned. She was like, well, I'll go spend time with my boyfriend at his place while David comes to town, but if you need anything, like, feel free to reach out, let me know ASAP, and I'll be there. So interesting first few months dating, that's for sure, but like the energy that we had with one another at first being distant, like, was something I never experienced before with anyone. And so that's why I just kind of ran with it. And like I was talking about with prayer and my like asks of God, essentially, like if the next step was a relationship, I was really trying to be open-minded about it. And when we did first finally see each other in person and spend time together, I think you were here for 5 days, or you were in Ohio for 5 days with me.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what solidified it. I actually introduced him to my parents during that time. Like, I just knew I wanted him to meet them, like, no matter what happened. And, you know, it's kind of crazy to think about, like, in retrospect, how our relationship evolved. But in the same time, that's what's helped us develop that strong foundation that we have today. Because we've almost been together, what, 4 years? 3.5 or 4.5 years.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think it's longer, 4.5.
Oh, so it's 4.5 then. Yep. So
yeah, because we got married after we were together for like three years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been 4 years. Okay, yeah. So we've been dating just over 4 years now.
Yep. And so of that, about 9 months of it was long distance. Well, if you don't include your traveling. So I moved down to Georgia in August of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
He had a competition. He had also just taken a new job. Well, during that time, I quit my job to move down here, started working some different part-time jobs, and started up my own company. He was consulting with a company out on the West Coast and flying to Seattle and back every single week. And so if that doesn't put a strain on a relationship, a new relationship where we're newly together in person makes a huge difference. And that actually will probably be a single topic for a video in itself, is how to do long distance and how to work with consulting in different schedules, because that's something in any relationship you have to work together or it will fall apart.
Yeah, which we definitely experienced the falling apart actually during that period of time. So that was definitely like probably the most transformational, depending on how you look at transformational. It was the hardest hardship that we went over, like in a relationship, one of the hardest ones, because it was going to be basically make or break actually. It was one or the other. There's no in between, no, like you had to do it or it was in or out, and that's what it came down to. So, but yeah, that's a whole another video alone. That's gonna be a long one. So there's a lot to it.
For sure. And I guess another piece that I just thought of is, you know, through our journey, we both knew like our core foundational values. And that was something we talked about right off the bat when we first started dating was, what do you believe in? What are your morals? He was like a 2-hour open book one evening on a FaceTime about like everything. And I was almost like overwhelmed with so much information that I didn't even know like how to regurgitate my life. And it actually took me a lot longer to open up with you about some things, just because like our personalities are very different too. So David's a Capricorn and I'm a Cancer. And if any of you know zodiac signs, that's like two complete opposites, which is okay because we also have some things that we're very similar and have very much in common. Bodybuilding was just kind of that open door that had that first commonality. And now that we've been together for 4.5 years, I wouldn't call it our foundation per se, because we have some different like spiritual foundations.
Yep.
But bodybuilding, the lifestyle in an essence is that platform that we've grown from. And honestly, that's something a lot of people in fitness don't understand or haven't been able to do successfully, because it is a very selfish sport, very individualized. It's about my physique and his physique looking the best that we can. But when you're getting ready for competition, especially, like, that's like tunnel vision time. That's my time. That's his time. And in 2018, or 2019
was junior assist.
We did a prep together. I thought that was one of our most challenging time periods in our relationship, personally. In addition, so between you consulting during that phase and then, like, in your beginning, going to Seattle and back, that first phase was challenging.
Yeah, that was challenging.
And then when we did our prep together in 2019, that was the next most challenging, because I almost at one point was like, I don't know if we're gonna make it, because I am the more of the giver in the relationship. Like, that's just my personality. And not that you aren't a giver, but that's just not what his personality leads with. And so, and I've talked to several other like male and female couples in bodybuilding. A male, for some reason in the sport, when you're getting ready in prep, it's like there's only one lane road. Like, you don't even see the lane next to you as a male. No. You're really like, this is my lane. I need help. This is what I can do by myself, but then I need help here. And so if I wasn't able to help him, he literally would just like gone into the ditch, right? That's the best way to describe it, because in my perspective, I see like the 2-lane highway of I'm going down the road, David's cruising next to me, but if he starts to derail, I will actually derail to try and get him back on course. So not that I wasn't successful at my goals, but I'm always gonna look at his goals as kind of that, if he's not succeeding, I'm not succeeding type of mindset. And that's kind of where like we've been able to raise each other up too, and recognize, all right, these are some of the faults that like just our personalities have if we don't pay attention to them. And this year in 2020, we both prepped, but we did 2 different shows, and I actually think it was better for both of us because we were able to dedicate time to the prep. Like, when I was in prep first, I was prepping and I would ask for his help for certain areas, and he was able to be there for me and lift me up. And then when he was in prep, I will say at the beginning I wasn't as good about it because I was coming out of prep and kind of hit like a little post-show depression stage. Then I was able to kind of flip gears and be like, okay, now it's time to help David so that he can succeed type of feeling.
Yeah, but those conversation pieces are definitely like topics of conversation, like when we're in prep and stuff like that we can do a whole another video on as well. How we were able to be successful during the preps, what we found out wasn't good during preps, like what we wanted to change, and everything's going to be different for you all, obviously, but it just what we figured out worked best for us. I mean, as a male, like your libido usually goes out the window. Females tend to get better libido during prep, so it's like polar opposites is like one thing. There's a lot of like science that we could talk about, but the relationship side of it and just the balance side of it, very, very difficult. And by the way, I'm better at looking in the mirrors of the cars than she is. I'm just gonna call that one out.
Thanks.
But that was a good metaphor. I did like the metaphor.
Thanks.
I'm the one that drives everywhere.
What? Lately, no.
Wait,
during prep, I did all the grocery shopping and all the cooking. Don't go there.
Yeah, but I drive us everywhere.
No.
No, I don't drive us everywhere.
Okay, during prep, you did not.
What do you mean?
The only time that you were working from home this past year. We drove separately to the gym because he was taking forever at the gym, and I was in this prep mindset of I need to get in and out, and I was so was I.
Absolutely crushing it.
Anyways, I was the only one who did grocery shopping because he had a point where he couldn't even make it through Costco, like walking with me, and.
Oh yeah, close to the end of the prep, I couldn't.
That was like 8 weeks out.
Stores because no.
Yes.
Was it really that far out?
8
that
or
I started
6.
getting tired?
Yeah.
I thought that like I started hitting my first wall around 6 weeks out. Then I hit another wall at 4 weeks out, and then 2 weeks out. Like those are the phases that I hit. Because I thought 8 weeks out was pretty good. I was getting over Corona 10 weeks out. Remember that?
That's a whole nother segue too. Is how
Yeah.
do you care for somebody when they're kind of down in the dumps and sickly? Because our men are needy sometimes.
Yeah, we're all big. Every
Big
male out
babies.
there knows that we're big babies when we get sick.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like we can handle like heavy stress load of weights, like lifting 400, 500 pounds, no big deal. But you get a cold and it's like the world's ending.
That's something else we'll need to talk about is motivating each other in the gym. Because at the beginning of our relationship, when we were actually together, we would train together. Now, I've tried to motivate him before, and he literally was like, "That's not motivating." And so I was like, "Bye." And I didn't talk to him the rest of the workout until we got in the car, and he's like, "I'm sorry, but you aren't gonna be able to spot me and motivate me." I was like, "That's fine." It just came off real harsh.
I was like in the middle. I think I was like, my boys were like yelling at me or something like that. Like, come on, let's get it up, blah, blah, like all that stuff, right? Boosting your testosterone, whatever it is, and ego, all at the same time. And like I was like in the middle of my squat or something like that. And then she said it. I was like, then she said something again. I was like, "You're not motivating me." And then I continued my set. And I was just like, oh. I was like, that wasn't good. But I got a good set in.
Yeah.
But that's, yeah, it's just different, I think, for males. Like I motivate you to lift. Like when I coach you through stuff.
I've had to teach him a different way to speak to me because
absolutely.
sometimes you were so authoritative sometimes that it felt like my dad, and I was just like tuning you out. So I had to kind of correct you in that way because when he coaches his clients, he's like so like caring and like, "Okay, you need to tweak this. Awesome, do that again." And then he would come over to me and be like, "No, that's wrong." And I'm just like, why can't I get some caring?
Yeah, not anymore. Not anymore though, but yeah, absolutely.
So that's also where communication comes into play and knowing each other's personalities because David is extremely blunt, straightforward. He'll tell it to your face if you're right or wrong and what he believes, and David's always right.
Yeah, right. I'm not always right.
David thinks he's always right.
You make it seem like I'm closed-minded. I'm very open-minded.
You're not closed-minded, but when you have in your head that you're right about something, you're right about something.
Yeah, if I'm right about something, then I'm right about something.
But I've proven you wrong before.
But I care about your opinion.
Nonetheless, David is like that. Then I'm the opposite. Where I'm very emotional and I like want to be helpful and lovey-dovey and caring for you, and that's one of the reasons that he married me because I care for him.
I don't take care of myself. Literally,
no, you don't.
I
you won't even put lotion on your face, and now you're worried about wrinkles, and you still won't put lotion on your face.
My hands look like I eat babies. Like I like my manly hands. I don't want to put lotion on my hands.
I mean, I have calluses
but you can put lotion on me.
I'm not talking about lube.
No, I said lotion. I didn't say lubricant.
Okay.
I'm not a doorknob.
I don't even lube. We have a squeaky door, and that hasn't even been WD-40'd yet.
Yeah. And I like put the screws back on with a butter knife because I don't want to bust out the screws. Hey, it works.
Yeah.
Hey, pro tip: if your knobs get loose in your apartment or anything like that, just butter knife. Good to go.
Yeah. Also, pro tip is find out what textures are not or are working, especially during prep, because if you make a whole vat of pulled chicken,
oh yeah,
and he says, "I can't eat it that way," there goes 5 pounds of chicken that you get stuck eating, and half of it goes back. So that's always fun too. But like, honestly, a whole nother section we'll have to talk about is how to make like meals work, because that's something like we still are trying to work through that. I went through a phase just this past few months where I was getting depression eating by myself because I would go to work and work in an office. I don't socialize with my coworkers, which is my bad, but it is what it is. I don't go out to eat at lunches, and I usually either eat at my desk or I go to a park and I eat. So I'm eating 90% of my meals by myself. And we would get home from the gym and Dave would just go into the room and eat, and I just like, Okay, well, if we're gonna be a family, I'd at least like us to eat one meal together a day, like if we can. So that's something like we've been working on, and even like if we're eating the same foods, prepping it together. On Sundays, we like to do cooking together, and that's actually one of our resolutions is to start taking some cooking classes together.
Yep.
And that's because that's one of our passions too that we're both trying to get better at. But
Well, we always cook bodybuilding style food, so everything is healthy. Every baked good is healthy, which is good. Like every baked good should be healthy because they all taste amazing. Check out her page, by the way.
treats of quality.
There we go. Just slide it in
I
there.
have our ebook already as well. I'm working on the second one right now, so you can get that at the link below.
But yeah, so the cooking. So one of the reasons for the cooking class is not only just to get better, it's to actually not cook only bodybuilding style food. I'm very creative in the kitchen too, like when I want to be, like with my meats and my foods, and like I don't, if I want to, I can get very creative. But it's very health oriented all the time. So it would get us out of the comfort zone of only eating super healthy or pre-cooking the chicken beforehand and like cooking it together with herbs and stuff like that, which everything tastes really good that we eat, but it's just different.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why.
I agree with that. Now, the one thing, like, unfortunately, the bodybuilding community has like this bad fallacy of cheat meals and like eating
Yep.
an obnoxious, like gross amount of food in the off season and getting fat in the off season and like eating these huge burgers and like all you can eat buffets and eating all these big brunches. And that's actually like the opposite of what we believe in, because we both have seen so much progress by sticking to a healthy whole foods diet that I think that's why we just lean on it, because it works. Now, that's where like my creativity comes in, because I am more creative than you. Like I made a homemade pesto. So we both like olive oil, and David would just use like olive oil on his pasta and he wouldn't think anything of it. But like today, I mixed in the pesto, I added in some nutritional yeast, making it more of like a flavorful meal that we wouldn't normally have. And it's still healthy, it still fits his macros, it's still within diet, but it's something that it's not always in the fridge.
Yep.
So trying to find ways that we can kind of incorporate that. And we do go out to eat every once in a while. We order in every once in a while. Like we're not total hermits. Like that's actually something I've been working on this year, especially as being more social. Like the past 2 weekends, I've gone out with a girlfriend and ate a meal out and not had regrets about what I ate. I always choose something within reason, or if I know that I'm craving something, I'll enjoy it and I'll modify my foods accordingly from there. We're also getting ready for our honeymoon, so now I'm trying to cut a little bit of weight, which you guys might have seen on my recent posts. David's always got an 8-pack, so must be nice. Either way, he doesn't have to wear a bikini.
I had to earn it when I was like in 7th grade.
Yeah, how many crunches did you do?
I worked out. I was doing over 1,000 crunches a day. Yeah.
In 7th grade, so when his IGF-1 was spiking, he's getting all that muscle stimulation.
It's like, yeah, the only stuff that I used to do back then was abs.
Calisthenics and soccer and abs.
I don't even know if I was really doing calisthenics. I think it was just like pretty much crunches. I worked out sometimes, and then like in high school I started doing weight training, but I was still 135 pounds wet.
He was my size. Actually, I weigh more than that right now.
Yep, I was tiny when I started this journey.
Yeah.
And I just fell into the sport because of injuries. So.
He's the injury prone one. Thankfully, the only injury I've had, knock on wood, is my ankle injury from middle school track, where I thought I could hurdle. My 5'4" butt cannot hurdle. So.
Yeah, so working 7 days a week and balancing that out with getting us time or learning how to segment your life to the best of your ability, like client cutoff time and stuff like that, which is one thing I'm trying to balance out better. I have a system in place to a degree, and but like I'm very, very accessible, especially because if someone has an emergency, I want them to reach out to me. It doesn't matter, like I don't care if they're a client, they're also a friend. I consider them almost family. By the time I'm all said and done, like with how much we talk and how much I know about their lives, they're like family to me, so I want them to reach out to me whenever. So finding a very good balance and learning how to segment the life, and it kind of goes back to the consultant life when I was doing it, because I was working like 12-hour days. I was flying 5.5 hours. I was up for 24 hours before I'd step into the gym on Mondays every single day, and literally up for 24 hours, and then I'd just walk in the gym and I'd start to train, and then I'd go home, go back to the hotel, and then go back to sleep, and it was, I had to segment everything. When I was home, I was home. When I was working, I was working. When I was in the gym, I was in the gym. And if I didn't know how to completely detach every single piece of my life when I was in another phase, then I was never present, and I would never be successful at whatever it was. So segmenting my life into pieces, especially being a male and being one-track mindset, like you said, for me, it's very important to segment every single bit and piece. I'm very, very ADD. I'm actually ADHD. I don't take medication for it. And you know, it just is what it is. That's how I function. I know how I function. I think in puzzles. So I have to do one piece of the puzzle at a time.
And I'm the center puzzle piece, right?
Always.
Yay.
In my heart.
Oh, he's precious sometimes. He's corny sometimes, though.
I am corny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good thing you like cornbread. That's what got you.
I actually hate cornbread.
Well,
You knew this.
Well, maybe.
Maybe he doesn't.
Maybe
That's
okay. Maybe I was more cheesy in the beginning than corny.
Probably.
Because you like cheese, for sure.
Yeah. I did like cheese a lot. That's what happens when you grow up on a farm in Ohio, and there's a lot of dairy farms and ice cream. That's Sarah's favorite thing about Ohio, was getting to try out the local dairy stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, just like the actual meat, the food in Ohio is such good quality. Even though we live in Georgia, but like the food quality is not the same as Ohio at all. I love the food in Ohio.
You just love food.
I love food. I'm a foodie.
Me too. We're foodies. That was part of the reason that we...
The seafood sucked in Ohio that I've had though.
Well, yeah.
Like we went to like the nicest seafood restaurant. I was like, oh, this sucks.
know.
And it was super expensive.
It
That was
super
upsetting.
expensive. It was decently priced.
That was like, and I'm a pretty positive person.
You are.
I ate it.
You did.
I gave you feedback.
I know. You always give me feedback.
Whether it's
I
asked for or not.
I do ask, because I'll like make a new recipe, and I'll like immediately be like, what do you think? Because I'm not going to make something if he doesn't like it. I mean, there's certain foods and recipes that I bake for myself because I love it, but maybe it's something that he's just kind of like meh about, and if I'm like dieting, I'm not going to make it because I don't want to tempt myself. But
yeah, if you get a 9, you've only made one recipe where I gave it a 10 out of 10. I'm a harsh critic.
What was
I
that?
don't remember what it was, but it was something so
the
good.
oatmeal raisin chocolate chip cookies?
I don't know if it was the cookie or the crack bars.
Oh, you love those.
The crack bars are amazing. Like, that's a solid 10 out of 10.
That was one of the cookie recipes.
But I think there was one cookie or a
caramel
bar.
maple cookie.
Yes. 10 out of 10?
Yep.
You got a few 9 out of 10s out of me too. She's like blowing away whenever she gets it.
To man's heart is through his stomach. So ladies, learn how to cook and bake. Now, I'm going to wrap this up because I think this is a really good entrance video. We've got a lot of topics that we're gonna dissect and go into detail more. Probably do some we can do some gym and stretching video stuff too.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a lot of things couples like try and bond over. And even though like he and I are really unique in our workouts that we don't train together, like at the gym we almost ignore each other. Like it's kind of weird, but it works for us.
But so it's weird, right? But every single guy that I know, like that's older, that has had good marriages and stuff like that, or that has been in a long-term relationship, they have issues getting their wives to the gym. But when they see us in the gym and like we ignore each other and we just do our thing, they're like, that's goals right there. Because you need that separation, and it's your space. That's our sanctuary.
Yeah.
Or that was my original sanctuary. That put me on my spiritual journey, was the gym.
Yeah.
It was my holy place.
Even now, like some days I don't go to the gym. I just do yoga at home. So it just depends.
Yeah.
But you guys should comment below what some of your thoughts are and the topics that we're thinking to discuss, or things that you specifically want to learn about. And feel free to reach us on Instagram as well, Dynamite D and Strong Sweet Caroline, and look forward to sharing more about love and bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in.